Hey everyone, welcome to Southeastern Louisiana University's English Department Colloquium. I am Tyler and this is Kendall. And today we are privileged to be with a prolific writer that we are certain you've seen her name in the credits of many of your favorite movies. What are some of those, Kendall?
Yeah, some of her most notable films are 1991's Beauty and the Beast, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland series, the Maleficent series, and she has also contributed to 1994's The Lion King and 1998's Mulan.
Yes, and we use the term writer because her work really crosses through a bunch of mediums. That screenplay work is what she's known for to most of us, but she has done television screenplays. She's done plays for Broadway plays and productions that have toured the world, and she's also done some young adult novels that are very interesting. So without any further ado, we'll introduce the one and only Miss Linda Woolverton.
Hello, Miss Wolverton. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
We're doing great. We're just so honored to have you here today.
I'm so happy to join you. It's an honor for me.
Awesome. And before we get started, we want to make sure that the students that are streaming know, please submit questions as often as you like. We're going to fill them as we go. We're not waiting until the end. We have Alec and Caleb over here that'll be getting them in. So send them on into that YouTube stream or that email address on the flyer, and we'll ask Miss Linda for you. But go ahead, Kendall. Let's get it started.
Yeah, so to get started today, we want to kind of start with where it all began. So what part of your education and background led you into the writing field?
I was a theater major. I have a master's degree in theater for children, actually a specialty in theater for children at Cal State University Long Beach here in California. And that led me to a lot of performing for audiences, young adult audiences and kids in schools and junior highs and high schools. And I did a particular type of children's theater called participation theater, in which the play is actually written around the actors using the suggestions of the audience to forward the plot, which is incredibly challenging with kids.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Mm-hmm. So what I was trained in that, but what it did for me was allowed me to really feel a young adult audience, to really, because you have to be so open. You can't just be locked into your script or your performance or your character. You really have to be open to the energy that they're sending you has to sort of come through you and you feed it back to them. So it was very, very unique training for me. And basically it led me to what I do today.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So let me ask you this, that theater background, that's obviously connected to film and to the theater stuff. How did you make the crossover to these young adult novels, to that medium?
Actually started in the novels before I went to writing for film and television. I went to Hollywood because I figured that was how I was going to best break in. And I got a job at CBS, the network CBS, on a desk as an assistant. We called them secretaries back then. Can't do that now. They're assistants. And during that time, I just sort of absorbed what was around me. But I was feeling frustrated creatively because I had left all of my theater experience behind. And so executives take really long lunch hours. They take like 2-hour lunches. So I'm sitting there for 2 hours and I can either to go to lunch with with my friends and talk about clothes or boyfriends or whatever, which is fine, but it gets a little old. And then I decided that I was going to use that 2 hours to write, to try and see if I could write a prose and write a book. And I didn't know if I could. I just wanted to write something from beginning, middle to end to know that I could actually pull it off. So, and my desk was in the hallway. I didn't even have like a private place. It was in the hallway. And so everyone would leave. And there I was at my desk in the hallway for 2 hours. And I wrote my first novel, Starwind, that one. And then I took a friend of mine to see where I grew up, which was a very unique environment. It was a place called Naples in Long Beach where there was a canal. Instead of a front yard, a street, you have a canal. It's pretty like Venice, Italy, or Venice in California. So I was telling her the story of my childhood, which wasn't easy. And she said, you have to write that. And I realized I did. So Running Before the Wind is that.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a saying here, and we were reluctant to ask because we read Running Before the Wind, Kendall and I, and we have a saying with Mr. Ormon's workshop. It's you write what you know. And Running Before the Wind, it had a lot of emotional resonance with both of us. It's just very emotional. But that makes, I mean, we were going to ask you, was it connected to you write what you know? And you answered it for us.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Thank you for letting us into that. We didn't want to dig too deep. But,
I'm shy about it, and I don't hide it because, you know, that's just, you know, I put it out, and obviously it's out in the world. So it's fictionalized and it's a narrative. And so not everything is every single event in order. It's all kind of squished up, and I changed certain things, but it's basically my childhood. And what's the most compelling thing about writing that book for me is I had all this stuff bottled up inside. When I wrote the book, I was able to put it out of me and put it up on a shelf, and then I could, okay, and then I could write other things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Yeah. So the act of doing that opened doors. It opened my life.
Yes. And I must say this to the students. There are some aspects of this book, not to ruin it if you guys are going to dig it up. Like there's one scene that we talked about where Kelly talks about the power of the victim. And that one scene that she's in her room that makes total sense now that you have that experience, because that's like something you have to be there with that perspective to be able to express. So yeah, well, I'm glad we got to talk about the novels because we didn't want to dig too far on it, but Kendall, do you want to lead us somewhere else?
Yeah, so kind of speaking about your background in children's theater and just writing towards young adults in general, although most of your works are like driven towards young audiences, we do find that all age groups really do connect and identify with the things that you have created. What specifically about your work do you think resonates with all ages?
Well, one of the mandates for the Disney movies, one of the mandates at Disney at the time was you write 8 to 80.
Nice.
8 to 80. Okay, so that's tricky. So basically what you do is I found that in my colleagues, and it's a very collaborative, experience, is that the storyline, and there's a level that's for the kids, and above that, the writing above that is for the adults, and the kids don't necessarily have to get it, or it doesn't have to impact them emotionally as well. But so basically you're covering the whole gamut of the age ranges, and then as people grow, they see it again, and then they see the things, they resonate in their lives in a different way.
Right. Well, we already have a student question in. It's already firing up. So got a question. Alec, who do we have it from?
Renee asks, do you find the process and approach for writing a musical to be different from writing a non-musical? What difference, if so?
Writing musicals is wonderful because what enables you to do is the songs, where the song moments come, it enables you to have the character express something they can never express in dialogue. It's their inner soul crying out or rejoicing or whatever it is. And to put that into dialogue just doesn't work. But to be able to put it into music, it uplifts everything. So the process is very, very different because you have to make room in your story for those song moments. So they have to be it's not like you write it and then you go, oh, let's put a song here. Let's put a song here. And a lot of people make that mistake. It has to be embedded. It has to be woven into the fabric of, of the storytelling. And really the great musicals, you'll see that that's what it feels like. You couldn't take the songs out. Everything would fall apart.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Certainly. Yeah, no, go ahead, Kendall.
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask, kind of in relation to that, then, do you have an aspect of the narrative that you typically start with before the others, like setting or the song, character, plot, themes, anything like that? And is one of them ever harder to flesh out than another?
I have a different process than a lot of writers. I'm not sure it's the best. It's just the way I know how to go about something, which is theme is everything. So it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you're lost in the woods, go back to the theme. And if you don't have a theme, you are lost in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a thought that I want to write about something, I see something in the world I think that needs to be addressed, or then that's what the whole thing is going to be built on. The protagonist is going to embody that theme. The world is going to reflect the theme. The characters, the antagonists, are going to sort of object to that theme. Whatever it is, everything. The theme is the beating heart of, to me, all storytelling. So a lot of writers in my world start with character, and they character drive, and I just don't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Kendall and I are feeling you, like we're saying, we were definitely know your material, came up with it, and that makes sense with your perspective. It's definitely there. So with that, and with the material that most of us know, like most of our audience knows of yours, we know it tends to be a reinterpretation of an older tale. So when you engage that original text and you either put your own theme into it or develop a theme with it, do you have any proven processes or methods that you have, found along the way in your career?
Well, I guess we could take Beauty and the Beast as an example.
Okay.
Beauty and the Beast is an original fairy tale written in the 1700s, a French fairy tale. And it's thematically about looking past the exterior to the interior. Don't judge a book by its cover. So that led, I worked really closely with the lyricist Howard Ashman on developing all the characters of the tale, all of it. So Howard and I really, we really worked to create, we wanted to embody that old fairy tale, but also make it feel modern, and to create a heroine that speak to people today. Yeah. And I was really pushing, because I'm a feminist and I've always been a feminist, I was pushing the feminist agenda. I always did. And because I felt like the Disney princess needed a modernizing.
Yes,
I felt like the victim heroine had to change, which was great, for their day. But by the time we were working in the 90s, so this is a different kind of Disney heroine. And my particular goal was to reinvent the Disney heroine with Belle. Right. So that's sort of how that evolved. It was really a deep collaboration between Howard Ashman and I.
Right. I think you definitely accomplished that goal too, because I know for me personally, Belle does mark where the Disney princesses really start to have a little bit more control over their own lives and a little bit more say in their own narrative versus some of the older tales where they are merely acted upon rather than part of.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So we do have another question. Alec, you said it was who is this? This is from Sarah.
Yes. So Sarah asks, who have been some of your favorite collaborators throughout your career?
I am the luckiest writer in the world. I've had the best opportunities to work with the most remarkable people that were my heroes. I worked with Elton John. I worked with Sir Tim Rice. It's craziness, I collaborated with Bernie Taupin on a musical that Elton was doing the music, and Bernie, his longtime writing partner who wrote every single Elton lyric that you love, I found myself sitting next to him. It's like crazy, pinching myself regularly. And I was writing the book and he was writing the lyrics, and we would get to the place where I wanted to use a word and he wanted to use the same word.
Wow.
So we would have to like fight over the word.
Yeah.
Trade off. You can have that if I can have this. So that collaboration was remarkable. Even the show was not successful. The process was amazing. And another incredible person to collaborate with is Tim Burton. Amazing. He was so great because he would protect me. Disney's they're tough taskmasters, to put it lightly.
Oh, wow.
And with Tim, he would just sort of protect me. So in all of the movies that I wrote for Disney, Alice in Wonderland was the truest to me because there was no interference. There was just Tim Burton in me, and his incredible genius, bringing it to life. And he never told me what to do. He said, just try it, and also fun thing about Tim is, he has this sort of crazy persona. Like it's Tim Burton. He's like crazy. He's got the funny hair, wears the funny socks, and he's kind of like sits like this all the time, and he's thinking about it. And in the Disney executive meetings, he would be like all like this, I don't know. And then when they would leave, he would sit up and go, okay, let's do this. So it was a completely different, he was putting on that as a show for the executives. And then he was just like, oh, let's get to business. Very funny.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you've had no short of collaborators then. It sounds like it. I imagine they feel the same about you since you keep getting called up on,
right.
So.
And I'm very blessed. I've been very lucky.
Yes, ma'am. So we have another question from a student, Alec.
Samuel asks, in the industry, how long through production does your role tend to be? Do you see it from conception to end, or does it move beyond you at some point?
Well, it's interesting. It's very different in animation than live action, and they're both a little problematic. In animation, the story department, which is people who draw the storyboards, collaborates with the writer. And sometimes there's some conflict there. So what happens as a writer, it gets taken from the page to the storyboards, and then you sort of work with the storyboard artist on keeping the voice the same, keeping the style the same. Otherwise, it's just a hodgepodge of all these different storyboards. That's a little bit of a battle. So you can't be shy about wanting to stay in the process. And it's not always, there's not always a desire to have the writer around, honestly, either in feature films or animation. You have to fight for your right to be there. And the Writers Guild has even put it in the rules where you have to allow the writer on the set. So I've been able to do that, but a lot of times the writer is shunted away after it goes into production or when the director comes on. But it's really, I believe it's really significant and really important that the original concept person who's conceived it should be around all the way through the process, even in the editing room.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with that, following that question, do you feel the demand of that like standard Hollywood 3-act plot, where there's the way that it's developed from introduction to this like friction to this resolution? Do you feel that do you flourish under those conventions, or do you find that sometimes you're wrestling with them?
I wrestle all the time. I'm a bit of a provocateur. I don't like templates stamped on to stories. I don't think every story needs to be told the same way. And I'm really vocal about it. I do believe in the 3-act structure. It's just the way I function really well. I function in beginning, middle, and end. But to read the how to write a screenplay books, I is really problematic, because I don't believe on page 7 the inciting incident has to happen or it's no good. You know, as an I go by my instinct. My instinct will drive me when we need to move out of a scene or when we need to bring in conflict or whatever that is. I'm not going to look at some book. I'm going to go by me.
Right.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That artistic instinct, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to trust it. You have to trust it.
Yeah. You got something for Kendall?
Yeah, actually, you spoke a little bit about how working with Tim Burton on Alice in Wonderland allowed you to be like the most you and produce your most you work. I actually do have a question about that one, because obviously Alice in Wonderland is a reconceptualization of the original by Lewis Carroll. And I noted that in the movies you included the Jabberwocky, and specifically that Alice slays the Jabberwocky, when
Yes.
originally that was not part of the tale and it was like a knight. And I was just wondering, like, kind of what was your thought process through that? Because I personally really liked putting the lead female character, giving her that really strong role. But I was wondering what drove you to do that and how you decided upon that.
The Tenniel illustrations for the book are really remarkable. They're, the Red Queen has this giant mouth. It's almost bigger than her head, and it's always open. So that's definitely the character I strove to write. And I don't know what happened, but when I was looking at the illustrations, and I saw the illustration of the Jabberwocky with the knight. Well, first of all, the knight has long hair down to his shoulders, and his back is to us.
Right.
So I thought, well, why does it have to be a boy? Couldn't it just be Alice?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it evolved. Taking liberty, but being true to the essence and the theme of the work. I actually, partway through Alice, I got writer's block, because I felt like I didn't have the right to do it. I felt, who am I? This is Lewis Carroll. What am I thinking? Beloved. And I actually was stuck. And I went to London. I took my daughter to London for Christmas. And when we were in London, I was really stuck, and I had a deadline. I mean, like, this has to be delivered, and I don't know what I'm doing. That's a scary thing. So in London, I was walking through Hyde Park. This is an absolute true story. And I came upon a bust of Lewis Carroll, which I did not even know was there. And I asked his permission.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I love that.
That I would promise you, I will do my best. I will keep it true, but you got to give me your permission. It's got to be okay with you. And after he didn't answer. It was, but after that, it all opened up. After I got home, it all opened up there. Actually, I just writing. So you have to honor the original creator, right, if you're going to adapt and update or whatever it is, and not just try to make it yours and slap your hand on it and say this belongs to me, because it really doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
Wow, that was nice. Yeah.
Exactly.
We have another question. I'm gonna make sure these students get every question they need in. So Alec, who do we have now?
We have a question from Aurora, who asks, what was your process in writing the backstory for Maleficent and her relationship with Aurora?
Well, that's a nice name that you have, Aurora. The Dawn. Can you ask me the question again? I was focused on the name. What's the name? What's the question?
What was your process in writing the backstory for Maleficent and her relationship with Aurora?
Well, Maleficent is a really, really interesting.
Your process in writing the backstory for Maleficent and Aurora, their relationship.
Right. The backstory, but the backstory is the same as the front story. It's all the same thing. It becomes all together. What happened was with Maleficent, Disney came to me and said, do you want to take a stab at writing Maleficent as a protagonist? And I'm like, no, She kills a child. How am I going to make her? That's ridiculous.
No, thank you, right?
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. You can't. She kills a baby. So, or she curses a baby to die. Same thing.
Right.
Same difference. Yeah.
So I went off and I said, that's not possible. And then, of course, it starts to roll around in my head. And then I'm watching, I watched the original movie and I saw that Maleficent. First of all, I thought she was a witch. She's not. She's a fairy.
Right.
And when I was watching it in that big scene in the, when she curses the baby, there's other fairies there and they have wings. And I'm looking at it and thinking, where are her wings if she's a fairy? What happened to her wings? And that suddenly turned it for me because I understand this is a woman who lost something she lost her soul. And that would give her a reason to have that much hatred and want to get revenge, misguided as it was. So with regard to Aurora, what was wonderful about writing that relationship was it was really about, mothers and daughters and stepmothers and stepdaughters. And it started out so antagonistic with the baby. And then over time, she falls in love with the baby. And in the end, it's that Aurora who melts her heart and curses her own, and dissolves the curse. So that Aurora and Maleficent is a really huge, wonderful relationship that I loved writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can see throughout all of the works that you've mentioned, there's definitely this theme of you taking the female characters and empowering them and making them more dimensional than we have previously seen, which I personally take a lot of inspiration from. And I'm just very inspired by you and the way that you think about how you can give these female characters more of a backstory and more of an actual role in what they're doing. I just think that is truly inspiring.
When I find myself over and over, I found that the theme that I'm constantly, it just shows up, is the redemptive power of love. And how you can make a horrible mistake, but love can bring you back and you can come back from a mistake. So a lot of my characters start out flawed, and love changes them. Yeah. And I think that's a universal theme that I think that's what makes people want to go back and back to see things again and again. Yeah.
Certainly, yeah. Beauty and the Beast, that's a tale of redemption if there ever was one. Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Well, let's ask this craft question for you real quick. We're trying to satisfy those who want to know the arts stuff and those who want to know those craft questions as well. So this next question is when you're writing these screenplays or even the scripts for plays, we've heard from other, around the department, just different perspectives. When you write, we understand that there are multiple audiences for that actual physical text. You have your directors, you have your actors, and then your ultimate audience. And if it's animated, you have animators. What your role what audience do you think of primarily after, let's say, the final audience? Do you think of the director next or the actors, or who do you consider while you're writing?
Well, it's always the audience. It's always the audience. However, because it's not a book, except for the books, it's not a book. It's not on the page. That's not done. That's just the beginning. So the audience that I write for are the people that I write for the read first. Because if you're not engaged in the read, as and agents and directors and actors, they have stacks and stacks of scripts. So somehow your script has to jump out. And so I don't write for the specifics of the craft. I write for the read.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to write for you getting so engaged that you're going to want to stay with it. And it's going to be more interesting than the one that just writes short little sentences. And, I'm going to write prose in my scripts. And my scripts are always too long.
Yes. Yeah.
Always too long, but I want to grab you. And then if I grab you, then you get passionate about it, and I can get a great actress like Angelina Jolie, or get a great director like Tim Burton to be engaged. So I write for the read.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's why we never get to see the final screenplay as audience members, you know. So
Right.
we see the interpretation of that screenplay basically. So I know that like where we are, we're fed Tennessee Williams plays, and he has this long poetic prose that just it's very hard to get away from probably what Tennessee Williams desired you to want. Do you think your screenplays are analogous to that? Do you think that you set it up to where Linda's vision gets put as much as you can from the written word alone?
It's funny with Alice, it was too long because it was really expensive to do all those effects, and Disney wouldn't pay anymore. So I kept getting the producer kept calling me and saying, "You have to make it shorter. You have to make it shorter." And he was wonderful. His name was Dick Zanuck. He was wonderful. But Tim said, what he said was, so we've read the first version. We have that. It's in our heads. So just write the shorter version. We already have elsewhere what you wrote before. So then I could adjust and cut and all that stuff. But he had it. So he knew it was in my head. So I didn't have to worry about that anymore. Does that answer your question?
Yes. No. It's just that question of like, because we've watched a lot of your other interviews, and we know that you're in an industry, you know, that has a tug. So we were just with your written screenplays from, you know, the craft work we've studied. The screenwriter for some situations is limited to dialogue, try to develop through dialogue, you know, and very just limited description of the setting and stuff.
Right.
And I was just wondering how much of that do you actually include, or do you get away with, I should say, through the entire development or production?
You know, there's a big thing about world building now. You know, there are people that are world builders, and that's what the studios want, the streamers want. I mean, you know, in this television world, it's like we want world building, people who can create worlds and bring us into that. You can't do world building in a half of a sentence. You have to create it. You have to make it. You have to like enable someone to see the thing that you're creating. So in terms of you're going to make something that doesn't take place in a coffee shop between two people talking, it's going to require adjectives. No way.
Yeah, that easy.
Just
No, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, and it's a basic question, but there's a difference between, and I know you've expressed this before, and I think you've kind of hinted to it, the way you have to do it through your collaborative process. There's so many different aspects you're collaborating with when you write. And it's good to hear that the vision of the screenwriter, specifically one like you, gets to be followed through. Like that other question from a student, from conception to end. It's good to hear that the actual written word, it's getting pushed forward. Even though that's not what the final thing is, you know, it's a film. So yeah, but
I think the only other medium, there's two mediums that are really, really true to the actual word, the books, you know, literature, and also stage. The stage has a completely different association to the writer. The word is God on the stage. Nobody changes anything unless they get permission from the author. You are really the author. And in television and movies, it's not the same. You're just one of the collaborators.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a question, Alec, that has to do with that.
Maria asks, what do you think of the surge of long-form narratives that streaming services have begun to provide versus traditional movie film lengths? Do you feel long-form narratives will take the place of film-length narratives?
It's a really good question. I think that the whole industry is in flux. You know, and will there even be movie theaters?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Will there be movies? Right? You know, it was already headed that direction with it was already headed that direction with the giant tentpole movies taking up all the film space, like all the theater space. Like the Marvel movies you know, they were taking up so much space. There's so little place for the independent film. And then with the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
everything closed. And the question is, will the theaters ever reopen? And will there ever be a place for them, given that, this is a question I talk with my colleagues all the time, given that you can sit at home and you can watch with a better, you know, technical, your movie screen's better, your sound is better, you're at home, you don't have to deal with somebody else eating popcorn next to you. Is that going to supplant the theater, the actual movie theater experience?
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, do we need the communal experience? Do we have the desire as human beings to sit in a place and experience storytelling together and to share that with an entire audience? It's what, you know, it's what the theater was based on since Aristotle. Do we need that, or are we willing to let that go? And that's a really interesting question. And I don't have an answer.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we're figuring it out, I guess, as we move
Right.
forward.
We are.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the long form streamers is fantastic. I think it's amazing, and it's just changing the face of storytelling.
Certainly. And
Mhm.
and to add what you're saying, I guess this could be framed as a question as well. The scarier thought is, and I have never thought watching a movie in theater communally like you just expressed it. Like for me, it's live performance, you know, live music, a live play. But to think about it in that way, but it's even scary. You would agree to think that potentially live performance could fall wayside to this long form narrative because it's more accessible and it's more comfortable than in that way. But also, you're right. It loses quality. I'm asking a question and answering, I think, just by your answer. So,
Right.
but yeah, what do you think about that as well? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that we need, as human beings, the shared energy of other people. I think that the live performance, the energy of a live human being singing something, you know, with a voice that is, you know, godly, is such a visceral experience, and sharing that with other people in terms of the energy transfer is not something that will ever go away. I don't think it will go away. I think we will fight to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Right.
Well, we have a little bit longer with you, Linda, and we have a couple questions in, but we wanted to
Yeah.
throw these to you, and we'll have the students ask. Do you have one for her?
Yeah. So obviously, you have written many different types of things because you are a novelist, a screenwriter, and a playwright. So I was just wondering, what do you find to be like the most unique aspects of each? Because you did say you tried to include as many details as possible in your screenwriting, but do you find that there are certain aspects that you like more than another whenever you're kind of transversing the fields?
It's funny, when one gets to be too difficult, I'm always so happy I have the other one to go to. And they all have incredible joys and also difficulties. You know, writing movies is hard. Getting a movie made is incredibly difficult. But because I've had the experience of that actually happening, when I write a screenplay, it's a movie. I mean, I'm on the set, you know, because it's just, I've had that experience. And I get this little thrill when I'm writing. It's like, oh my God, this scene, they're going to have actors and we're going to shoot the scene. It's going to be so cool. It's going to work so great. So I have that. Even though I think film and television is the hardest of all of it for me. Writing prose is very hard because you have to write prose. It's not an easy thing. It's a lot harder to write than a screenplay in terms of the actual creative process of writing it. But there's so much control and power. You know, it's your world. And then the theater is really fun because all you have to do is write something, and suddenly, like, they're saying it, and you can fix it on the spot. You know, if it's not working, they'll just go here and write this and give it back to them. It just doesn't work in any other medium. So they're all joyful, and but they all have their downsides as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. Are you currently working on anything?
Mm-hmm.
I am, and it was announced, so I can say it. They don't let you tell until it's announced, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, we won't tell anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't tell anybody.
Just for
No,
Southeastern.
it got announced. It was in the trade, so we're
Okay.
I'm writing Eloise.
Mhm.
You know, Eloise, the girl who lives at the plaza, the little girl who lives at the plaza.
Oh, Eloise at the Plaza?
Eloise at the plaza.
That's a
Yeah.
classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a really good time. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm so excited to see what you do with that. Like, genuinely, I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's a challenge, no question about it, because it's just a picture book. And then you have to, of course, find the story and the conflict and the
Right.
character growth and the themes and all that stuff. But boy, is it fun.
All right. So we have a question from someone. Go ahead, Alec.
Yes, Eliza asks, how has your workflow and artistic flow been through the pandemic?
Well, it's interesting about that. My life hasn't changed that much because I stay home and write anyway, right? I've never gone to an office. I've never worked on a lot. I don't find them conducive. My muse doesn't live there. My muse lives where I am. And walking is part of my creative process. So I really use physical movement. And when I'm walking, the ideas flow. They've sort of proven that walking fosters creativity. So that's my process. So that all works in the pandemic because I'm at home and I can go out and walk. The pervasive depression that I think that we're all experiencing, the fear, anxiety, and depression that is pervasive and covering all of us like a blanket, has affected my work. No question about it. But it's also in my life, I've found that in my darkest moments, that's when I do some of my best work. Because you're really down at your essence, right?
Yeah.
You're down in the pit.
You got to pay the price, right?
Yes, exactly.
So it's really interesting. You know, I don't know. It's taking me longer to do things, longer to get things done. And I think that has to do with something like we're all experiencing that.
Yeah. Yeah. We have another question. Go ahead, Alec.
Jamal asks, what are some of your all-time favorite books, scripts, or screenplays? Or better yet, what pieces would you consider to be most influential on your writing?
I saw Lawrence of Arabia when I was a little girl, probably like 12. And it was epic and so moving to me that it sort of like imprinted on my young brain. So what I find is, first of all, it's my favorite because of that. And I find that I'm drawn to the large, epic landscape, the large epic storytelling. I'm not going to be the person who writes two characters in a coffee shop.
Right.
It's not going to be me. It's a really big palette I like. I really want a big palette, big sweeping palette. And I know that came from seeing Lawrence when I was so young and impressionable. And my other favorite is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Southern thing, right?
Yeah.
Southern thing and just impeccable in every possible way. I mean, I cry just to think about it. Other really influential, Terminator.
Terminator.
Terminator. And Alien.
Yeah.
Alien was big, and Aliens was really.
It's like the proto Bell right there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, more than Star Wars or the Alien and Aliens was just, Ripley. Come on,
Right.
It doesn't get better.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's that. One of my, honestly, a different subject. One of the favorite things that I ever wrote was Homeward Bound.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to bring it up, especially Zorba and Maggie right here.
Right.
I felt I am a 90s kid, and all you 90s kids watching, y'all know those heartstrings get pulled when that ending, that climax where he's but I felt like those two animals in that book, your books were right there in Homeward Bound. That's cool that you brought that up. God, she wrote Homeward Bound too. We just didn't know if it would.
Right.
It wasn't. It didn't.
Homeward Bound is one of my favorite. It was just so fun, and every time, an anecdote was, I had to, of course, rewrite the script over and over and over. But every single time I rewrote that last scene, every single time, large drops of tears would fall onto my hands on the keyboard. Every single time. I mean, I didn't get old. Crying on my hands every time.
That's in that same workshop. The teacher, Mr. Roman, says, "No tears for the writer, no tears for the audience." So it's great that you say it like that. And I'm glad you brought up Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound.
I know.
Yes, that's the deep cut 90s kid stuff right there.
Yeah, and those were all my animals. I'd had all those animals, Shadow, Tempest, I had them all.
Yeah. Man, that's I'm having a nostalgic fit right now. So
I know.
But let's see. Do we have any more student questions right now? Oh, we do have one, Alec. Go ahead.
Tristan says he's curious to know if you were ever compelled to write something or have a big project that ended up failing or falling through.
Yes, sure. You don't really have a career unless you have failures. Part of the challenge you don't have a full-bodied career, even a full-bodied life, if you don't fall down. Because then the real test is, can you get up? Can you get up? And I've had crashing, terrible failures. Aida on Broadway with Elton, the one I was talking about before. Crashing disaster. Horrible, terrible reviews. Just vilified me and my collaborators and the show. And, and it'll either depress you and destroy you, or you'll just get up and chalk it off and just keep going.
Yeah.
You got to keep going.
Right.
I guess, and we had one more question. Not that she hasn't answered this probably a dozen times for people, but for finding and maintaining their identity. Do you have any other words of advice for writers and artists that you might want to share?
Don't ask people's permission. Don't ask your audience's permission. Don't ask your parents' permission. Don't ask the studio's permission. You have to write what you feel. Don't ask your professor's permission. Because getting permission, some people don't know what you have, and they don't know what to ask for. I mean, audiences don't know what they want. They don't know what they want. You give them something remarkable and something new and astonish them. So that's my advice. Astonish us.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
We've been astonished.
Astonish us,
The whole career. So
for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, and also, you have to work, and it's work. It's not just play. You have to sit down every single day and face the empty page and be miserable and, open a vein and do all of those things. But that's it. That's the thing,
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Dope. Well, it's been a pleasure. Yeah.
It's been an absolute honor to have you here today. We want to thank you so much for making time to talk to us and to just share your insights and let us get to know you a little bit more, because we're so used to watching these movies and we all know your name, and you have such an important impact on our lives, and it just is really special to actually have you here and just get to talk with you. That is just such a unique experience. We want to thank you for that so
Amen.
much.
Yes.
Yeah, for me too, and thank you so much for the invitation. I've just loved it.
Great stuff. Well, bye-bye, Linda, and I mean, we wish we had more to give as things. This has been a journey for both of us emotionally as well. So thank you again.
Right,
Best
thank
wishes.
you. Bye.
All
Bye.
right, guys, that's been the Southeastern Louisiana University English Department's Colloquium, presenting Linda Woolverton. That was amazing. Yeah?
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. My life is fulfilled.
Yeah, we're done with school, right? No, we learned all we need to learn.
That's
now.
it. I'm done.
That's a joke, especially as we thank Dr. Hanson, the department head. We thank Dr. Landrum and Dr. Fuller for their support. Also, the students that helped, Caleb and David, the tech team, Chris, the lighting tech. Pre-production, we had Tiffani and Alec and Aurora, and I am Tyler, and this is Kendall. And y'all stay tuned. We'll have more guests next semester. How are we going to top that? We'll figure it out, maybe. We'll get one of those collaborators.
We'll do our best.
Yeah. But y'all have wonderful holidays. Stay tuned, and we'll see y'all next